I think this is a bad matchup for the Jets in Arizona on Sunday.
It could be. What Arizona does really well, running the football, the Jets have not proven to be really even remotely competent with at this point. That's got to change. But, sometimes you just get lucky, like where you just don't do your job. And because others aren't doing their job well enough, what you're not doing is maybe not as, it does, the light doesn't shine as brightly on it. I don't know if I've ever done this, but I'm going to take you on a little ride here because I think this is so important. I think the Jets have a chance to get to the playoffs. I've said that. I said that going into the Texans game. Now,
and I don't think you're nuts.
I don't think I am either, just based on the math, based on the numbers.
But going into each year the last 2 years, no, I'm saying like going into each of the last years, I'm like, I don't know, dial it back, big guy, or even this year, like 12 wins, whatever. But I don't think that what you're saying now to finish 6-2 would it be?
6-2, they'd have 9 wins and obviously 7-1.
Yeah, okay.
If they go 7-1, which I think is probably more in the 6-2 neighborhood, they would finish up with 9 wins. And at that point, again, if they come out and the first half against the Cardinals represents the first half against the Texans, they will lose the game and this conversation will be over. But because they will lose. But if they come out and their game against the Cardinals is more closely resembling the second half against the Texans, which I'm kind of certainly hoping and somewhat even expecting, I think they're going to hit some stride here. Look at the teams above them. So right now the Jets, and before the Texans game, they were in 15th place, only ahead of the Titans, who they beat. So with the win, they went from 15 to 10. All right, still got work to do. I understand that. And it seems almost crazy to be sitting here with 3 wins in the middle of November, basically, and say that the Jets could get to the playoffs. But when you look ahead of them, what happened last night? Now, they got lucky last night. The refs were awful. The coaching was crazy. So by the Bengals losing, barely, to the Ravens, Cincinnati is ahead of the Jets in the 9th spot at 4-6. Okay? Then you look at the Colts. Well, what are the Colts doing? The Colts right now are one slot away from being the final wildcard team. First of all, the Colts are playing the Bills this weekend, and the Jets and the Colts play in Week 11 at home. Then you say, all right, well, who's occupying the final slot? It's the Denver Broncos. Now, the problem with this, I know, they've got the tiebreaker in favor of Denver. Denver's 5-4. Now, who are they playing this weekend? They're playing Kansas City. I look at Denver, and I'm not going to do that because that's a little bit too much of the minutia. I'll just highlight for you. They haven't played Kansas City yet. So they have not. They've got to play the Chargers again. And even if they play average teams that they'll be favored to, I do not think Denver is beyond, stumbling a game or two. Like I said yesterday, they've got 8 games to go. I actually think they're going to go 3-5.
Yeah, they could be going the wrong way, Denver.
For sure.
I'm a believer in Denver and pick their over total for the year, but I could see that Denver could start going the other way. Like, I'm not a big believer in them long term.
Neither am I, and neither are the Colts. No. Now, if the Bengals would have played better early in the year.
No way. I'm with you.
So you're with me. You don't think this sounds nuts?
Well, no, not at all. As far as the way you're painting the picture for the Jets to realistically be a playoff team, all that makes sense. Like, the Bengals would worry me. I know they lost last night, but they're
talented.
I mean, they could have easily won that game. And argue they should have won that game. So the Bengals would worry me. But I guess you got to have a South representative. I was going to say the Texans aren't very good. The Jets obviously beat them. But yes, anyway, to your point, I don't think it's unrealistic to sit here and dream before this must-win Sunday that the Jets could be a playoff team. However, where you get down to it, forget about the other teams. To them, that's my issue. So as far as the path in the AFC, yes, it's possible. My biggest issue is I just don't trust them.
I get that. I do. And now that's where it's tougher for me to push back because I don't really fully trust them. Like this inspiration or this belief that they can make a run, ironically, is almost more about the situation than them.
Right, the schedule, the situation with the teams
in front of them, they're vulnerable. It's not
but this week, BT...
Got to win this game.
Well, but it's going to have to be about them. Because initially you may look at it and be like, the Cardinals...
No. The Cardinals are tough.
And especially the fact that they run the football. And that has been... Like, the Jets' defense, and I've said this all along, and now it's going to come to a head here. To me, what was going to be the separator for the New York Jets season was their defense. If it was going to be a top 5, top 3, maybe even top defense in the league, that is how they were going to separate themselves from the pack in the AFC. Because offensively, even if they were good, they were never going to be as good, in my mind, as the better teams in the AFC, whether it's the Ravens, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's the Chiefs or the Bills, whatever. And I know those teams have their own flaws, but talking about just offensively, and the Jets clearly aren't on that level, but the defense would have been separating them. To me, they cannot win this game if their defense does not show up and specifically stop the run. And they're just a bad tackling team.
They don't wrap up.
Yeah, well, so then why would I think that it's going to change change. The landscape, yes. The competition, yes. The schedule and all that stuff. This is a bad matchup for them.
Well, it's a bad matchup if the Cardinals seize control of the game early. Like if the Jets, and they really haven't been able to do this very often, if the Jets can jump on the Cards, and I don't mean 21-0, but, 14-7, and, just squeeze 7-0, 7-3. Now, suddenly, not that they're going to be pass dependent if you're down 4 points or one score. I understand that, but the more the Jets have the lead, I think that the less the Cardinals will be inclined to run. And, hey, listen, Sal's point is on the money with one thing. Jets, defense, sack up.
Yeah, I mean,
sack up. There's no way to say it. Sack up. Because you know that they're coming out and they run to the tune of 150 yards a game. They run. And one of the Jets then, first of all, their running back is good, and their quarterback can run. And the Jets, whether it's Drake May, Jacoby Brissett cut them up for a big first down in the Patriots game. Every game, the Jets have shown an inability to stop the quarterback from getting loose. Now, it's double-edged sword here because of what I just said with Murray and with Connor as a really good running back. But you know what they're trying to do. It's not like complex or, this elaborate, crazy scheme with all this mix and match and motion and 35 shots downfield. They're coming to shove it down your throat. Your season's hanging by a thread. They're going to look to run it 30-plus times. Strap on your helmet, tackle, and play defense. Right. And if they do, I think they can easily win this game.
Agreed.
Because they're going to score on that team.
But that's a major if. I don't, based on outside of hope and maybe what we thought might be the case going into the year about this defense, based on everything that we've seen so far through 9 weeks, how could you say that you think that it's going to happen? I'm not saying it can't. Obviously, things can change, sure. But, man, that's why I say it's a bad matchup, because I don't think the Jets have that toughness in them. I think they're soft as a defense. They've been proven to be bad tackling team. They've been proven to not be good against the run. They're not going to, Arizona's not going to beat you through the air. They can make plays through the air, but they're not going to beat you through the air. The Jets need to bring their lunch pail, go to work, play a physical, tough defensive game, stop the run, and they should be in great shape. I just don't think they could do it.
Again, Sal, this is where you could be right. I was doing this on the pod the other night, right? And it's weird because where the Jets are, they were, and this is a strange place to be. I started with the Mike Williams trade. That's how I just wanted to get that out of the way. The Jets were one more loss away from maybe being sellers, honestly, whether it's DJ, and I love DJ Reed, but contracts up, and people were already calling. So
if they lost to the Texans, we weren't even talking about them today.
Yes, but I think that they would have made some trades. I really do before the deadline the other day, right? So that was with one more loss. With one more win and pick any of the 6 losses, they could have won and on some levels should, outside of the Niners game, won pretty much every single one of them. If they had more win, they very well may have been buyers. So this is a very weird spot for the Jets because you couldn't go all in because you got 3 wins. You can't go all out because you're all in with Rodgers and all the other things that they've done with Devontae Adams and Tyron Smith. This has been a weird season, and they've got a chance to, I don't even want to say shut up a lot of people, but really just gain some respect back. It's really not over. And I was talking to some people last night. I had a great Verizon event. It was awesome last night. And a lot of Jet fans, right? Including my guy, Chris. And, I don't want to say that they owe us. They owe themselves. They owe themselves a chance to complete this. And I know that it seems like such an arduous task when you say, well, you got to win this game and then win the next game and then find a way to beat Miami once or twice and then the Rams. And forget about that. Win this game. What's happening in front of you has been all good. They've been given favors. Win.
Yeah, and the thing is, if they do win this game, and this is the last, obviously they're going to have to go out there and win more on top of this, but this is the last real big hurdle, because I feel like off of what they did in the second half against the Texans, if they can put together a good performance here and start to change the feel, change the momentum, change the perception, or change the reality of what they have been, and beat Arizona and do it in a physical way, which I don't think they could beat them without doing that. Now you get the Colts at home. It's a soft landing spot. They'll get the Colts. Then you got the Seahawks at home.
Then you have a bye before the Seattle game at home.
Right, okay.
After the Colts.
So even more.
Rest up.
But the point is 2 games in a row at home against teams that they should beat. And now all of a sudden you're looking at a team that could be 6-6.
I know. Trust me, I know.
It's all right there for the Jets. Now, it's still going to be tough with the Bengals. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge probably to beat them out for that 7th spot because I think the Bengals are just better. But point is, it's still, the season can still be on. They're not dead yet. So there is legit reason. There is a path. I just don't think they're going to get past Arizona this week. I think Arizona's better than a lot of people think, and I think they do well what is a big weakness for the Jets, running at that big, bad defense that talks a big game. I just don't. I think it's a bad matchup, and I think the Jets end up losing this game. And it'll be nobody's fault but their own fault.
That's true.
And it will be the defense, not Aaron Rodgers, the offense. I know they haven't been great, but that's not the biggest problem. The defense is far under-delivered what it was supposed to be.
And they've got a chance to, somehow get back some wins that a kicker who's no longer with them, flushed down the chute if Zerline would have done his job. Now, a lot of people say it's never one play that loses you a game at a team sport. I don't know if I really agree with it pertaining to this Jets season. Sure, I could go back to the games they lost where Zerline messed up and say, well, if this guy didn't commit a penalty on 3rd and 6 and they would have punted instead they scored a touchdown. I get that. Like, you can do that game all day. But quite literally, because their kicker was atrocious, they're sitting in this position. They've got a chance to really, to do something here. Did you see enough from Rodgers in the second half? Because to me, what encourages me is I don't want to say the newfound ability, but the trust in his legs.
Yes.
He started to run a little bit.
Put it this way, though. I do trust Rodgers 100%. I know he hasn't been great, but I think the ripping of Rodgers, like, he's not the MVP level Aaron Rodgers. He's still far better than anything we've seen here and still more than good enough to get a team to the postseason. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to overcome the lack of toughness on the defense, the amount of mistakes that this team still makes, whether it's the stupid penalties, the Corley dropping the football before the end. Like, they just do stupid thing after the drop passes, all that stuff. You could hope that it's starting to come together. And I do think offensively, like, Garrett Wilson is a stud and needs to be better, but he's starting to, really show himself after a Thursday night game against the Texans. He looked great. Obviously, the great catch. Devontae Adams starting to feel more comfortable here. They should have enough offensively, and I do believe in Aaron Rodgers. Will it be enough to overcome poor defense? I mean, now you have to play at a really high level to make that the case. And that's where my issue is. I do believe in the offense, and I do believe there's reason to believe, more than hope, that they will start to get better and more consistent. I just don't trust that defense.
Now, to inject some possible reality into the situation here. I mean, they're trying to do this with a guy who's probably not even a head coach.
Well, that's another major issue. Matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking it and just didn't say it. I'd feel better about them going to this game with Robert Saleh. And then think about that. I'm the one who was saying he's the worst head coach in the league for a year and a half, whatever it's been. But their defense is the key. And defensively, while I know Olbricht's the defensive coordinator, they've gotten worse since they fired Saleh defensively.
I agree.
Least in my mind.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Where do you think the Jet fan's at right now?
I think the Jet fan is
taking the bait.
No. I think the Jet fan will need to be awoken with a win. I think they're beaten down. Even with the win on Thursday, it's like, yeah, that's great. Go beat Arizona, and then the awakening will come.
I don't know if I agree with that, only because of the standings. Now, there's a difference between full throttle, let's book a parade, versus coming off a win, getting 10 days rest, which the Jets have never had. Can I say one other thing? This is not an excuse, right? But I was looking at the Jets. I don't think I've ever looked at the schedule or standings in any season as much. Every day I look at these things. But I really noticed about the Jets schedule, and when it first came out, I was excited. I'd be lying if I said otherwise, because the Jets are so rarely of a national profile that when they get these games, I think Jet fans know what I mean. It's like, okay, you feel a little relevant here. You feel like this, you matter. Yeah. And the way it went down last year with Rodgers in Week 1, the NFL decided to double down, and they've yet to be rewarded. They're 0 for 2.
Right, even to a point where they get flexed out of a Sunday night
Correct.
game.
That's true. But I looked at the schedule, and all right, you want to start 3,000 miles away against San Francisco, who was supposed to be better. Not a big deal. It's a high-profile matchup, whatever. But so many times, then the London trip, and now the Jets could have softened this by having the bye after they elected not to. But do you realize the Jets have had, between the London game and multiple short weeks, I mean, the amount of football that they played in, thus far what's been a 9-game season is by far more than anybody in the NFL. And that's not an excuse. I don't know if they lost a few games because of injuries or they were tired or a combination of things. But now it's the exact opposite. Now they get 10 days, and now they're going to be more well-read. Then you got the bye coming in after the Colts game. Now, it very well might be too late. But if it's not, and if they can win this game against the Cardinals, I actually think if they win this game, I believe they're going to be a playoff team. I actually think they're going to do it.
BT and Sal on the Fan, 888-808-1019, the number to call. We'll get to the Giants coming up in a little bit as well. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires. From Connecticut to Maine, nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Sean is in Brick, New Jersey. What's up, Sean?
Morning, boys. How we doing?
Great. What's up?
What's up, Shorty?
I think, Sal, I don't think you're giving the defense enough credit just as far as the way they performed in the second half of these games. You know, I mean, I think holding the quarterback's QBR like under 60. I mean, besides Brissett and the breakdown in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense and Mosley hasn't played in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Besides Brissett, right? Besides Brissett, who is a backup quarterback on one of the worst teams in the league, driving the football the length of the field to beat them in a game. Yeah. Besides that, and then look at what they've done against the Texans, where I'm not even trusting what happened with Houston, who's been banged up with an offensive line. Besides that, you want to go to the Monday night game against the San Francisco 49ers where they got run over. I mean, how many more reference points do we need to give you? Besides that, I'm supposed to look at the QBR rating to give them some credit? How about the missed tackling, Sean? What about the missed tackling?
No, I agree, but the defense hasn't been full strength either. You're getting Reddick back, you're getting Mosley, who's an all-pro linebacker.
Yeah, Sean, hold on a sec, Sean. Now, I'm a little bit more with Sal on this here. Thanks for the call, buddy. Appreciate it. I think that if you're going to start throwing QBR out there,
my God.
which, I mean, I'm not really throwing it out there, but it is a stat. You want to reference it. I'm not mad at you here. But understand this. Through 9 games, the Jets have played the Patriots twice, who have a rough time getting a first down if you spot them 7.5 yards. So the numbers are going to be a little jaded in terms of the amount of points the Jets have given up per game, which, by the way, is 4th best in the NFL. Oh, they give up 19.4. It's just below 20. So you can lean on one of two things. You can lean on the stats, and which Sean appears more willing to do, or you can kind of gravitate more so what we're doing, and it's called the eye test, where I see sauce whiffing. Yeah. I see too many guys getting trucked and getting run over and being sloppy tacklers, and maybe even more than sloppy, almost unwilling tacklers.
That's a problem.
I agree with that.
A defense that misses tackles, that is as hyped and talked about as the Jets, and what the names that the Jets have there, that's embarrassing. And by the way, get all the QBR ratings that you want. Look at Brissett, a backup quarterback driving the length of the field to score a touchdown to beat you in a game that all but ended your season. Like, imagine if they just won that game, which they should have won 10 times over.
And who got burned on the big play? It was Sauce.
Oh, shocker.
It was Sauce.
Rob is in Westchester. What's up, Rob?
Guys, just bear with me for 1 second, please. About 10 days ago, you lose to the Patriots, and it's sell the whole team, bench Rodgers, epic failure of an experiment. Now, a week later, you beat the Texans with, mind you, no wide receivers whatsoever, no Diggs, no Collins.
Yep.
And I got to listen to playoff scenarios from you guys.
You don't have to listen to anything, Rob. You don't have to listen.
Oh, no, you do. You have to listen. You don't have to like it. We do want you to listen.
So no, I do too.
I love you guys, but this is ridiculous.
So, Rob, let me ask you this, Rob. All right, so hold on. So I'm going to let you be the host. All right, hold on. You're hosting. And hold on, Rob. You're the host. Rob, relax, Rob. Relax.
I'm listening.
Oh, are you sure? What would you say about the Jets?
I'm sorry?
What would you say about that? We got to say something. And by the way, I believe what I'm saying, and so does he. What would you say about the Jets?
I would say the Jets aren't going anywhere.
Okay,
the same way we all said that a week ago. You beat a team with no wide receivers. The kid had nobody to throw
Right, but Rob, here's the difference. And I understand what you're saying, Rob, and thank you for the call. And I don't think they're going anywhere either. But to say that there's not a path for the Jets, to me, is unrealistic. I didn't think they were going to be any good coming into the year. I said that, or at least as good as everybody thought. So I'm being consistent with this. However, I don't think it's crazy. It is, a matter of fact, factually realistic to think that the Jets could find themselves. And by the way, I don't think it's going to happen. But you can't tell me it's not real. What's the spread in this game?
It's 1.
Okay, so this is a pick-em game.
It went to a pick-em.
Okay, it's a pick-em, whatever, right? A pick-em game, which means that the Jets could win this game. If they did, I don't think they will, but if they did, they get to 4-6. Then they have 2 games at home. Take it with a bye week sandwich in between. The Colts, do you think they're going to be favored in that game?
Yeah, 100%.
And then the Seahawks, do you think they'll be favored? Okay, so we're talking about, Rob, and I get what you're saying, Rob. Like, it's not, you could have your opinion, you're entitled to it. I agree with you that I don't think the Jets are going to go to the postseason. However, realistically, when you look at where they're at, the landscape of the AFC, what they did in the second half against a good Texans team who was Texans 6-3, well, they beat them. I mean, whether you like how they looked in the first half or not, they beat the Texans. There's reason to believe, not just hope, that they could win the next 3 in a row and find themselves at 6-6. And then would you be talking playoffs? Mm-hmm. So we may be ahead of the curve. The season is not over. We're not talking playoffs with the Giants because the Giants are dead. We'll talk something else with the Giants in a little bit. But it is realistic to talk playoffs with the maybe not talking playoffs just yet, but a path to the playoffs.
Yeah, and listen, Rob, again, I understand why you don't really think that it's very plausible. That's fine. I respect that. And listen, I do appreciate the back and forth. I'm not trying to shout you down, but it's not like we're throwing something out here that is completely wacky. Now, if they had to go to Arrowhead next week or they had to go, well, I mean, whatever. Like, there's a lot of layers here. First of all, they played and I know that the Texans were banged up. They had no Diggs. They had no Nico Collins. Their offensive line gives up the most sacks in football. Their left tackle has the most penalties in the NFL, and that same offensive line gives up is tied for or second most pressures allowed by quarterbacks. So yeah, the circumstances were there for the Jets to squeeze out a win, and they did. Nobody's booking parade plans yet, but you got to react to what you see, and at some point you've got to at least. Well, this is our job. You know, you look at what you've seen so far, and then you formulate an opinion based on what you anticipate possibly happening. And that's where we're at. Now, if the Jets were in the same 10 slot, which they are right now, but they were 3 games behind the ninth seed, we're not talking that. We're talking Juan Soto to start the show. But this is very realistic. Maybe not for you. I get it. That's fine. But the Jets aren't dead yet. And anybody that refutes that, and I very rarely tell anybody that they're wrong, you are wrong, right, because they are mathematically alive. I want to know, Rob, when people started calling the station about the Mets, and I'll be honest with you.
We said it. We had them dead, both of them.
And I was among the last of the party. But there were other people who were more optimistic, who kind of looked at the standings, looked at the schedule, and said, hey, maybe the Mets, I don't mean when they were 22-33, I mean a little bit beyond that, where like, hey, maybe the Mets could piece something together. Did it sound crazy then? It probably did. Guess what? Mets made the playoffs.
And this is not as crazy. And Boyle, give me that fact that you just told me here. This is about last year with playoff teams.
Just in the last 5 years, Commanders in 2020, Jags in 22. Teams that started 2-6 and made the playoffs.
Right, and the Jets here are 3-6. Now again,
talk to me, Patty.
Now I don't
fuel,
think
baby. Give me fuel. Give me
by the way, BT coming up. You know, if they do win these 3 games, then it's going to be a different story going to Miami, whatever it may be.
Could you imagine if they win 4 in a row?
You know me with the Jets. Like, it's not unrealistic to think that this team could win 3 straight. They're not done yet.
Nope.
They're not done yet. Now, if they lose Sunday, they're done. They're toast, which I think they will. Yeah. Will you stop? All right, we'll have more of your calls on the other side. 888-808-1019 from chart-topping band